Just a joke, Carrack owners. Let's be real, there was an initial gut reaction where some Carrack owners went to that place. And that's what we are here to discuss. With the IAE over, and most importantly for me, the holidays, I can finally go over this awesome new ship from MISC, the Odyssey. I want to take a deep look at the previewed and, I'll assume, not so close to final white box, and theorize just how long-term is long-term for this claimed indefinite exploration vehicle. Is the Odyssey really the slayer of the Carrack? And also, my own personal predictions on becoming flight ready. So with all that said, let's
get in there nice and deep like.
So while we can already get a good view through the website, I wanted us to really see some separation. Maybe get a little closer to those details, and possibly have a better vision in our head of what life may be like on board the ship. So what do we know? In short, the Odyssey is an explorer ship that initially made all Carrack owners tense up so hard you could hear the faint screams of in the distance. But Carrack owners could hear future Odyssey owners going, You see, the thing is, rather than compare them, based on what I have seen, I'd rather see how they complement each other, and how organizations in the verse will want to ideally have both if they are focused on discovery. The Carrack is a repurposed military vehicle, meaning a military-grade hull. It has seen brutal combat. It also discovers and maps new regions. I would imagine in a discovery mission, an org would launch the Carrack first to locate and discover, then alert the organization's Odyssey, which can go out and travel far further and stay out far longer, and send back other data for the organization to further build up resource gathering. Also, don't forget, the Carrack is highly modular, as well as utilizes drones. It can discover jump points and chart areas. The Odyssey? As it currently stands, I see the Odyssey go in and use its abilities to stay out much longer, to scan and get information so they may unleash big salvage and mining platforms, so as to reduce the need for moving those suckers for no reason. In my own opinion, I personally see it where the Odyssey simply takes over for the Carrack after the Carrack has done its job rather than replace it. And don't forget, the Odyssey is not modular. She is what she is. She does a lot, but from what Cloud Imperium is implying, she almost needs to. The big complaint, which to the date of this video has not been addressed, is the mining and refining. Based on what I read, the MISC Corporation built this sucker to only be able to refuel itself, and I would imagine the ship within its hangar. The fuel tanks shown really do not look like they're going to hold much more than that. But also, just how often are you going to be finding Quantanium? To fill and refine the tanks enough, I have a feeling you will be doing ongoing scanning as the ship is in flight, as you don't want to be out or close to out when trying to find ore with Quantanium. It's not exactly all over the place. And then there's the stability issues that comes in with mining that. And then of course, the refining aspect. Just how long will it take to refine within the ship? So yes, the ship can be out indefinitely, but pray you find the ore that you need. Aside from some of these features that can be done, some of the big freakout, I think, came from the fact that the ship is much larger than the Carrack. It has the larger hangar, and then of course the capital components, which to me classifies this ship as a capital ship. So yes, when you read up on it, it is a bit jarring. Onboard refinery, ship hangar large enough for a saber, built-in mining technology and tractor beam, tier 2 medical bay, 2 large fuel tanks, those capital ship systems being capital shields, capital power plant, and capital grade coolers. Now, let's zoom way in and go over what this sucker has. The first thing I noticed was the layout, how well organized it looked. This both makes me happy and frustrated. Frustrated, the team takes so long to make ships, but happy because each ship keeps getting better and better. So a delayed ship could be an amazing ship. And let's be real, this baby definitely will not suffer the same fate as the Starfarer. Sorry if that one hurt. In the top deck, or after deck, we see the Xi'an-inspired gravity generator. Behind that leads us to the refinery. This is where we have that quote, indefinite aspect of marketing speak. With the enlarged image, we can see decent-sized doors and hallways. And some of these corridors go on for quite a bit. Lots of space to explore.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
Explore the space.
Another thing I really appreciate is the windows. Not just peering into space, but inside the ship. I appreciate CIG doing this and notice that they are trying to do this more on their ships. Basically, the top level is dedicated to life support and engineering, as well as having both elevators and ladders to all 3 decks. So ballistics people, you want to penetrate that armor? Up top and just above the hangar is where I imagine you will want to fire, so you can go ahead and pop those refinery tanks. The main deck, this is clearly your living area. It actually looks to be more comfortable than I was expecting. But then again, I have noticed that my ships tend to be the Spartan style of Aegis, or the hyper luxury of Origin, and, well, Drake. So I guess MISC sort of sits in between. I only have the Prospector to go off of. Starting at the bridge, we see 6 seats. This is for remote turrets, engineering, and I assume both the captain and the commander. As we head down, we see these 2 big-ass rooms. According to SIG, this will be for component access. So engineers be loving this ship. Further down, we see 6 escape pods. And a little beyond that, we see these big corridors branching off. And zooming in a bit, if we look right here, so you can make out a little bed and sink for the bathroom. Clearly they designated the chair as crew quarters. So each crew member gets their own, and to be honest, none of them look any bigger than the other. In the middle of the crew quarters, we see the mess hall, which should be a highly trafficked place, is in the ideal location in my opinion, and a sizable one at that. Of course, we have the ladders and elevators, as well as feature both large and small docking collars. Moving even further down, we have the locker room. To my knowledge, no other ship has a full-fledged locker room. Let me know in the comments below if any other ship has a dedicated locker room. So you should be able to hold many different suits within this area. Then of course you have the main viewing area of the hangar. I love the exposed railing they have as opposed to being enclosed. So heads up, don't be in there with your helmet off while someone is busy launching their spacecraft. CIG also added multiple ways to access other floors without needing to run back down the ship. On behalf of myself and many others, for that I thank you. On the bottom deck, we can see that those who elect to solo using an Argo Mole will have that skill tested even further. As with a climb down the ladder, we have a small, what I call, bridge to control the mining and tractor beam capabilities. I think this adds so much personality to the ship by having such a large area for separate controls tucked right underneath. Again, take note of the fact that this ship does not have any mapping capabilities being shown. This ship is about exploring, but not at the science level of the Carrack, but rather discovery for, say, a corporate profitability aspect. Further down, we see the most important aspect, in my opinion, the med bay, aka respawn. Based on what I am seeing, it looks like we will have 3 med beds. 2 of them I am assuming being tier 3 and 1 of them being that tier 2 bed for respawn. I like this, as not to bog down the needed respawn for a lesser injury needing only tier 3. Lastly, we arrive at the cargo and hangar. In the image here, we clearly see tumbrils rolling in, which easily fit inside the cargo hold. But if you'd rather have a Pisces or a 100 series in the hangar, there is a very wide door leading directly into the hangar. So if you need, you can allow for having a scout ship still and load the hangar with a few ground vehicles such as the Tumbril Recon and allow for the cargo hold to still be filled completely up. Granted, getting things in and out could be a pain, but long term you can maximize your cargo without sacrificing space for a ground vehicle. So while the Odyssey can refuel itself, that's self-sufficient for the ship. But again, it will not have the repair drones of the Carrack. And at some point, the crew will need more supplies in these new undiscovered areas. And as far as I know, there are no food replicators planned for Star Citizen after all. So with all that, does she put the Carrack out of commission? And if not, does this make the Odyssey a useless fleet addition? From what I see, no, to both. On top of that, it also adds some variety visually to the exploration aspect of the verse. It would be pretty bland seeing nothing but Carracks going out and doing all the exploring. So I appreciate the diversity. The reality is exploration is not even a thing yet. What's there to explore? Until we see more systems, we have only Stanton. And then what? Pyro? And while Pyro may be larger, players will explore it pretty rapidly. So in the end, if anything, the Carrack and Odyssey make a very powerful partnership. If you are curious about it, I would recommend just getting the CCU, but don't apply it. Or if you are seeking out a Carrack and are curious about the Odyssey, just so you are aware, the Carrack is the loaner for this ship. And that's a ship that is flying now. The Odyssey will take a long time. My own personal estimate is a flight-ready release in 2023 at the earliest. It took CIG almost a year for the Redeemer and about 6 months for the Ares. The Odyssey is way bigger. Large ships take at least a year, but we need to see. CIG marketing has a history of embellishing things via telling stories that simply never pan out, as people assume SIG is trying to elude us to some secrets. But those who have been around long enough, you know, we miss patches left and right. Ships always get delayed. I don't care if Whitley's guide alluded that both Pyro and this ship will be ready by the next IAE. I just don't see it. So rather, I would just say, enjoy both ships, and especially enjoy the Carrack as a loner. I don't see her ever losing her place. In the end, both will be just fine. In closing, for those of you who worry, don't. Based on what I am reading, this ship obsoletes nothing. Not the Carrack, not even the Endeavor. It can fill a hole in gameplay that, while not desperately needed, especially now, in time there could be a hole that needs to be filled.
That's what she said.
So that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch up until the end. If you enjoyed the content and would like to see more, please be sure to like and subscribe, as that does help grow and support the channel, and I would greatly appreciate it. So until next time, stay badass. This is Gypsy Ronin, out.
Security forces have reason to believe members of Goon Squadron have breached corporate city defense protocols. Be aware.